Hello. How are you? Just waiting for my friend Nadine. I am here to talk with her to do another Love Me chit chat, and we're going to continue our conversation around trauma and specifically around grief. So, yeah, we'll get into that. She's coming in right now. So if Instagram will let me let her in. Let's see, why is it not accept? Hopefully that worked. I don't see her coming in. Oh, there she is.
Ah,
Hi, Nadine.
hello, hello. I was round the wrong way.
It was, I don't know, I think Instagram changed something because it was a little bit different today when you came in. So it
Oh,
wasn't letting
strange.
me accept your thing. I had to go another route.
I
So,
was on the side. I was having a lie down.
yeah. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's a good day.
Good.
Anticipating the not full moon, new moon coming in. So I think I'm feeling that energy. How about you?
Mm,
Oh, there's
yes.
Amy.
Well,
Hi,
there's
Amy.
hello, Amy. Hello.
That's my good
We
friend.
Oh, that's good. Lovely to see
Yeah.
you, Amy. Good to have you here. We have a lot going on energy-wise, don't we, Trish? And you know
Yep.
so much more about that than I do. Is
Oh, I
it
wouldn't say that.
the portal open or the Leo?
The,
There's a
yeah,
lot going on.
well, we have the Leo new moon coming tomorrow. And that's around 1 o'clock our time, 12:54, I think Eastern time. So which would be 5:54 British summertime over across the pond.
You're good.
And then Monday the portal is opening for the Lionsgate. So Lionsgate's actually on August 8th, but the portal open. It's a portal of like energy that's so powerful
Mhm.
and potent, and that opens next Monday. So I love that we're so aligned with the energies in being
Mhm.
supported in that while we're doing this, because we can be intentional with that, and not just because
Yes.
it's influencing us regardless of whether we believe it or not. And
Mm.
I think we can use it to our advantage and really work with it. So
Yeah.
I'm just so grateful again, as always, that we're having these conversations and around my book, Love Me. And I'll show the book because I always forget to
Yeah.
show it.
Got it here.
That you're willing to share your experience reading that. And
Mm.
um, you, like many, are taking your time with it because it's not just a book that you want to skim through. It's something that provokes thought and reflection, and like you've experienced. So I'm so grateful that you're breaking down your experience in this way, and that we get to do this together. And we're
Mm.
not just help. I mean, we read stuff and we read things in books. We find wisdoms, and then we kind of what do we do with it? So this is a way to actually
Yeah.
apply that and talk about it and share our experiences and learn
Mm.
from each other, because we're all teachers and we're all students in a way. So,
Yes, yeah. And I think that's the thing, isn't it? It is, and this is why I love the fact that I can ask you my questions,
mhm.
because I read and then I've got questions, and who's the obvious person to ask? Well, the person who wrote the book, of course. But we're getting a nice little group of people that are joining us, aren't we?
Yeah,
And it's so lovely that they get the chance to question things as well, and then maybe look at things they haven't looked at, or maybe in a different way.
mhm.
It's quite nice, isn't it? That kind of, it's not just about what we can say, it's about what other people add as well. So anyone who wants to
Exactly.
comment here, then please do comment
And
and
yeah,
join in with what we're saying.
we'll
So
try to answer that and
I know,
keep on
read and
top
talk,
on the
read
conversation. I
and
mean,
talk.
it's a getting the hang of doing that, trying to pay attention to what people are asking us, and
Mm,
integrate that into the conversation, because we want
yeah.
this to be a group conversation and to get other people to join in it.
Mm,
So and last time we had our chit chat, we took that then into a private setting, and we had
we
our
did.
group
Yeah.
Zoom session with a
Mm,
beautiful group of people. And
wasn't it lovely?
I feel like
Yeah.
it was just divinely orchestrated, and
Mm,
people were saying this was so needed, and they've been looking for that kind of space. And we created such a safe container for people to show up however they were ready to show up. And that's what it's really
Yes.
about, because it needs to be a safe space when you're talking about this kind of depth of a topic. And so I feel like, and we're going to keep continuing that, but on a monthly basis, but we want to
Yes.
continue with these more public discussions too, and to keep continuing to share the healing in that broader way. So,
Definitely.
but something came up, I think, that, we talked about different, maybe not even recognizing what trauma is in our lives, or what if we may think we haven't experienced that, because we might look back at our childhood, for example, and say, oh, well, I had a perfectly good childhood. Nothing stood out really traumatic, but there's events that happen that we don't maybe necessarily categorize as trauma. So, and that
Yes.
kind of came up last week too,
It did, didn't it?
or
And I
2 weeks
was
ago now.
sharing, wasn't I,
Yeah.
that I didn't realise that I had traumatic events in my life, and that is exactly the line that we started all this bit with, wasn't it? Minimising our trauma is a survival mechanism. That's what we started with, isn't it? When I
Yeah.
picked that line out. And really that's what I was obviously doing. And then in the group, when people could speak, and it's easier for us, isn't it, if people can speak, don't have to read and talk at the same time.
Yeah.
It was lovely that people then, they felt comfortable to share some experiences, didn't they?
Right.
And some people kept their cameras off and just joined in their own way, or just listened. Some people were actively joining in, and it was a lovely, it had a lovely feel to it, didn't it,
It
Trish? It was
did.
really,
It
we
did.
felt
It
honoured
was
that
really
people
nice.
joined
Yeah.
us. Yeah.
Really
But
nourishing.
it was, wasn't it? And like you say, everyone commented on how timely it was and how needed it was. So we welcome everyone to join us for our next one, and we'll give the date later, won't we? So,
Yeah.
but we also, what came up on that call was also a little bit about grief, wasn't there?
Yeah.
That came up, and the trauma that brings up. And again, it's another thing. It makes me think about, do we minimize our grief?
Yeah.
Do we actually even recognize grief? And brings me right back to the beginning of your book, where you have a wonderful poem. So if I may, I'd like to read that, because
Sure.
it explains quite a lot. So yeah, if you're okay with that, I'll read it
Yeah.
out. So, and it is on right at the start on page 3 actually, and it's your poem called Grief. So grief manifests in many forms: grieving physical death, grieving love we have lost, grieving friendship that have disintegrated, grieving family that has fallen out, grieving the friends that didn't show up when or how we needed them, grieving the parents that didn't parent us the way we needed to be parented, grieving jobs or careers that ended, that were perhaps tied to our identity, grieving sudden change, things fading away, or things that ended abruptly, grieving the end of our dreams, whether realised or unfulfilled, grieving the opportunities we've missed, grieving things simply not turning out the way we had hoped, grieving the void, the empty space that once was full. Know and trust that this emptiness will become full once again. And in the midst of our grief, if we are brave enough to sink into it, we can find ourselves. That is so, so powerful, isn't it? Oh my God, I get,
Yeah.
just reading that, I get chills, because there's so many of those lines that really go, oh, yeah, oh
Yep.
yeah. And again, as you say, and I really feel it's quite a lot of your theme, if you like, and not to generalize, but if we're brave enough, we actually sink into it, then we can be healed. So we find ourselves, you're giving that, you're pointing out the different kinds of grief, which maybe people wouldn't have realized, but are also going, we can get through this. There's good in it.
Yeah. And that is, first of all, it's identifying that these things impact us, and that is, so any kind of loss is going to take us through a process of grief. And a lot of times what our knee-jerk reaction is to kind of, just keep moving on, and, oh, I just need to get, if it's just need to do something else to move on and to kind of bypass that, the pain of it. And the pain is to varying degrees depending on what the actual, event is. But what ends up happening if we kind of try to shove it aside or suppress it is that gets stored, first of all, in our bodies. So we're physically carrying around this energy of the grief, and then it piles up. So we do that once, we do that, let's say we lose a job and say, oh, it's okay, I'm good, it didn't affect me, and go get another job or go do something, but not really processing what happened. And there is a sense of loss of, a lot of times we tie our identity to the work we do and all of that. So there's that, or we're at a much deeper level of grief where we've lost somebody, a loved one in our life, where we say, well, I have all of these other things I need to focus on, or I need to show up for my family right now, so I'm not going to process my grief because I need to be strong right now. And so what ends up happening is that piles up on top of each other, and then years down the road we might experience something like I did, for example, the breakup, and then with all that unprocessed grief from my entire life, I'm not just processing what that event was. It's everything that I've experienced up until then that I didn't process or didn't heal before that. So I spoke to somebody recently who said that they, hadn't grieved the loss of a parent, and then this, this other loss of some kind, all the grief moments that they could have sat through and been sank into that pain and to really find themselves in that, they didn't do that. So when something else happened later on, they were now forced to feel that experience plus all the other experiences that they hadn't felt up until that point. So it is a painful process to be in that, but it does take courage, because it's so easy to run away from that and to do something else to soothe ourselves and to comfort ourselves. But ultimately we're just comforting our ego and detaching from our truest self in that. So that's why I say, why I spoke to that. I think I wrote that in later on, kind of repeated that in the midst of my grief, I found myself, because I was able to be in that pain and understand myself better through that in ways that I didn't even anticipate. So I think,
Do you think, and here I go with my questions, that it's if we take grief for the one I think is probably the most common, I might be wrong, when someone dies, when we lose somebody, in whatever shape or form, but I think that is something I know that when I have been at funerals, especially if it's the same place I've been before for something, I'm not just feeling sad for that person that we're actually saying goodbye to. The memories come up of people in my past and that kind of thing, with different emotions attached to them. Some of them I'm sad for, and then I feel a bit more work maybe to do on that. Sometimes it's just acknowledgement, that kind of thing. But it is very common, isn't it, to have those mixed feelings around a situation. Like you say, things come flooding back, and if we haven't processed them, then it's sometimes very painful, isn't it? But I get quite a lot of encouragement from what you say by thinking and knowing, actually, because I trust you and I know that this is true, that actually we don't have to be so scared. Yes, it might hurt, but we can get through it. And it's maybe might sound really strange, but it's sort of worth feeling that pain, because so many people, why we push it away a lot of the time is that we're scared and we don't want to feel that pain. And like you say, it's very easy to go, I can't indulge in this because I've got to look after my family or someone else, or I can't let this show, for so many reasons. But a lot of it, do you think it is fear, the reason that we're not actually sinking into it? Do you think it might be that people are just so scared of how bad it could be?
Oh my gosh, this is so so, you just opened up a big can
Oh,
here,
I know.
but it's so good, because yes, it's like we're afraid to take that. It's a risk, and this goes back to the pain and love. They're on the same spectrum. Like pain is on the same spectrum of love. So, and I include that quote because it's so true, from, I think it's Glennon Doyle, who says, pain is the price we pay for love. or something like that.
I think you're
Because,
right.
yeah,
I think it was grief actually. Grief
or
is the
grief
price
is
we
the
pay for
price we
love.
pay for love.
Yeah, I
Because, and
think
grief
that's what it
is
is.
about being in that process and
Mm,
feeling the pain,
mm,
because I believe that we can't, and now knowing from my own experience, we can't really know love or joy if we don't know grief, if we don't know the pain. We
yes.
don't
Yeah.
we don't know the fullness of it. And what I wanted
Mm,
to say is, yes, it can be scary to lean into that pain or lean into the grief and allow it to unfold however it is meant to, because we don't know what it looks like and it's dark. And a lot of
yes.
people, we don't want to be in that darkness, because we want to, it's much more fun to be in the light. But the
Mm,
darkness,
mm,
again, we don't know light without the darkness. So but if we try to just skip over that process of the grief and being in the darkness, we're ultimately bypassing our human journey, like why we're here. We're
yes.
here to have
Yes.
an experience. We're not here to just part. We may think we're here to participate in a system, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe, to
Mm,
go to
mm,
school, get the job, get married, follow all the
mm,
rules of society, and if you don't, oh my gosh, people are questioning, why aren't you married? Why don't you have kids? Well, you're married.
mm,
When are you having a baby? When are when are you getting a
yes.
promotion at
Yes.
work? Or what's the next? And it's like,
Mm,
that's not why we're here. We're here to
mm,
feel the full spectrum of what it is to be human. So, and to connect with one another and remember that we're all connected. So
mm,
that's
mm,
also why I feel like it's so important to go through that process of being in your grief and healing that, and then finding yourself in that, because that just strengthens all of your other relationships. It goes back to your relationship with yourself is the most important relationship, because when you know who you are, you know how you can relate to others, you know how you can show up for yourself, and so you can show up for others. And if you can't, that's
yeah.
why, when you talked about going into like a funeral or something, I think when I think of grief, I think, yeah, of somebody's loved one dying, passing
Mm,
away, and then a lot of times what happens is the friends around that person don't know what to say or don't know what to do, because what do
yeah.
you say? We all have
Yeah.
been there. And so a lot of times we say nothing, or we do nothing, or we kind of like
Mm,
isolate
mm,
ourselves away from that, and we just don't do anything. And then that person
mm,
feels so isolated, because,
yes.
and that is a result of us not knowing who we are, and us not being able to hold our own emotions, so we
Mm,
cannot possibly do that for somebody else. That's why we're
mm,
talking. That's why I shared my
yes.
entire story the way I did, because
Yeah.
we need to be able to do that for ourselves first, and then we can
Mm,
do it for others.
mm.
So that's
I-
why, and part of us all being connected.
Yeah, I think that's such a valuable thing to recognise, isn't it? That we don't have to know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people that when my mum passed away, I had cruise counselling, which in England is quite a recognised charity. I think it is actually for
Okay.
bereavement counselling,
Mm-hmm.
and and the person that counselled me actually didn't really say very much at all. He didn't try and fix me. He didn't
Right.
try and make me happy. He didn't. And I was amazed to start with. I was like, oh, come on, you're just supposed to be cheering me up, aren't you? But no, he wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I learned that actually it is okay. And it is also okay to say, I don't know what to say. I
Yeah,
don't know how to make
exactly.
this better. He also said to me, I'm not going to pretend I know how you feel,
Mm-hmm.
which was very valuable.
It
And I
is.
have then gone on to feel that I'm able to say that to other people.
Mm-hmm.
I might say, even in a text message or something, just say, I really don't know what to say, but I'm thinking of you, or
Mm-hmm.
something. Like you say, otherwise people are isolated just because people go, oh, I don't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something, again, just opening up this conversation, just saying to people it's okay not to know, to really not to know. I don't know how you feel. I don't know how to put this right, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It is quite powerful, isn't it? And I
Right.
really feel, I know when people say things to me, I really don't know what to do, but I'm with you, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
That's so, it really touches my heart, because of course they don't know what to say, but they've said something, and that's the
Right.
difference, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think being in our own process of grief when it comes up for us personally is a way to allow us to be able to have that top of mind response rather than pulling away and not saying anything. It allows us to, because we're in our own process of grief, we're developing that self-compassion. And then when we develop that self-compassion, then we can extend that outwardly. So we can just say, I don't need to show up a certain way for you. I just need, maybe the person who's grieving just needs somebody to be there and listen, like you said. And we're so, again, conditioned to think if somebody's telling us something, we have to have a response and a solution for that. And we don't. And a lot of times, this goes back to when you're in the process of doing this for yourself, then you know how to interact with somebody else who's going through that, because you know that you don't need somebody to tell you, okay, this is what you do. You kind of have to figure that out for yourself. We have everything we need inside of us. We just need to allow ourselves the space and the time to do that through the process of grieving, or through the process of healing, through the process of feeling the emotion around it. So, and then we can, I just lost my train of thought, but then we can better to show up for others in that space. We don't need to come at them with something, because that's not always what we're just looking to be for space to be held and witnessed, and to listen, like what happened for you. And that's a beautiful example.
It was an amazing, it was an amazing experience. And as I say, totally, it wasn't what I expected, but better. And it makes me think, as you're speaking there, and as I'm thinking it's exactly what my doggies do. They don't say anything. They don't try and fix me. They're just with me, and that's kind of all we need sometimes, isn't it? Just someone to be there or whatever. There is something about, God, people don't do it often enough, do they? Sitting in silence together. I think the Quakers, that's their silent prayer, isn't it? That's powerful.
Yeah.
But it is something, most people can relate to the comfort of a pet, and they don't talk and they don't try and fix. They're just there. And that's lovely, isn't it? Nature's the same. It's just there for us, isn't it? And it is healing, isn't it? It's so powerful. So I've gone off on a bit of a tangent, but
I love where you're going with this, because that is the whole, like, going down the process of so we're talking about grief. That is just is being in that kind of silence, in that darkness, and allowing yourself to be in that. And that's where, when I talked about finding myself, that's where I did, because I didn't have all the outside noise telling me to do this or to do that. I was just able to sit and be in that silence. And then that's when the natural intelligence, the intuitive guidance comes in to play, and you really start to connect with yourself and your soul. And that's, that's how we, I think that's how we move through it. And I think, I want to say too, because you talked about people kind of like shying away from going there, because it is like, it's heavy, and it's, it doesn't always feel good when you're in it. But like you said, it's so worth it on the other side, because we are in we have a much stronger foundation and connection with ourselves, and then therefore each other. And we're never done with that. Like, there's always going to be more. So I think, I look back on my own journey, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to have the awareness to, okay, yes, this sucks right now. And yes, I don't want to be feeling this way, but I'm going to feel it, because I don't want to continue this. I don't want this to keep continuing. And so when it does come up again, I'm only experiencing grief around that experience. I'm not feeling an entire lifetime worth of grief. And so it's, that's a reminder for me, and to not also say, because the first couple of times where I was like going through something again, even, grief comes in waves. I wanted to mention that too. It's not like you're, you go through the process of feeling it, and you couldn't say, okay, I'm kind of, coming back into myself, but then something hits you, and it hits you like a wall, and you're right back in it. And so then the tendency can kind of be to like, oh, I don't want this. Why is this happening? I already dealt with this. Like, let's move on. But it's like, no, it's coming back up, because it's never meant to be finished. It's always like the spiral of life. We're just going deeper into it and healing it on a deeper level. So yes, and it may even feel more intense, but That's why it's
Yes.
so,
Yeah.
that's why I think this journey is really, that healing process brings us into, it's kind of the path to our highest self, and to, because
Mm.
all of that unhealed grief or untouched pain is what's really, like, a lot of times keeping us stuck where we're at in our life.
Yeah, that's
So,
the thing, isn't it? But it is so. It's almost like, it reminds me of when I suffered from massive depression,
mm-hmm.
and I was really scared of it, and I was, because I would spiral downwards, and I didn't think I was ever going to come back out.
Yeah,
And then actually allowing myself to really be brave enough to go there and know that I could get out. And then you just sort of get better at it every time. Well, I don't know if it's your confidence grows or you just remember, but that for me has been so empowering to go almost to a point of welcoming that in. I know when the depression hits, like you
mm-hmm.
say, it's a wave. Same with grief, it's a wave.
Yeah,
It can hit unexpectedly and go, oh, here it goes again. But I haven't got that fear so much, because I go, okay, I've been through this before, I'll go through it again, it's okay. Sometimes there's a lesson to be learned. Sometimes I
yeah,
just go, oh, I know what caused that, that's okay. And there's something, isn't there, for being able just to give yourself maybe time, peace, stillness,
mm-hmm.
to just be with it. And I think, we both know the power of meditation. Maybe other people that are listening don't really get it or haven't really experienced it, but I really feel grateful that I have that practice, that I can just go, okay, I'm just going to sit with this.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my six steps in my program is sitting with difficult emotions. And when I learnt how to do that, resisted it like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But when I learnt how to do it, oh my God, almost welcoming that time, I'm going to sit with this for a minute. I'm going to purposely bring those emotions up, play a song that would make me cry, that kind of stuff, to
Yeah,
get those feelings and actually just see what's going on. And actually, as a process, it was, God, so interesting. I can't really think of any other way. And now I know that if that's going to happen again, I go, okay, let's go for it. Not always, I've got to be honest.
yeah,
There are sometimes I still go, not at the moment, but I give myself time to actually do that. And I'm sure you have kind of a practice like that. Do you feel that
yeah.
you will give yourself maybe a day off or something and just feel what you need to feel?
Yeah, I do that. I give myself a day off. I schedule in,
Mm,
sometimes even proactively, not sometimes, a lot of time proactively, self-care, just because I know that that is going to help me be able to navigate
mm,
things better when they come in, because
mm.
it's always
Yeah,
coming. There's always, once you're on this kind of journey of healing,
yeah.
it's
Don't
always,
get
it's, we can joke about, like, why did I choose this? But I wouldn't want it any other way, because, like I said before, this is the human journey. This is why we're here. We have so
yeah.
much potential that we're only stopping ourselves from experiencing. And it's not about achievement. I'm not talking about
No,
potential
no,
of achievement. I'm talking
no.
about potential of just living and being and experiencing and feeling what it is to be human, the full spectrum. And we,
Mm,
like, it's just coming out of that conditioning that we can't show our emotions, that it's a bad thing, that it really is where a lot of the wisdom about ourselves resides. And
yeah.
um, going through that process, like you said, when you give yourself that space to meditate or whatever, it doesn't have to be perfect either. Like,
Mm,
thoughts
mm,
come in, and you just
mm,
come back and say, okay, I'm gonna take another breath and come back to that. But
mm, mm.
it's going through the motion, or not going through going through the process of experiencing what that feels
Yes,
like, is what allows us to better handle it the next time it comes up, because we have
that's right.
tools in place. We know we're not going to stay stuck there.
Mm,
We know,
mm,
okay, this is, everything is temporary. You kind of learn that through the process
mm,
of, it's
mm.
okay to be in that darkness for a while, because
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah.
come out of it, and we're going to come out of it
Mm.
stronger.
That's the thing, isn't it? To know that there is so much going on in that time,
Mm-hmm.
isn't there? And it sounds quite dramatic, but when I used to be like that with my depression, I used to think, oh, I can't give myself that time. I can't go there because the world will end without
Mm-hmm.
me. That was one thing. I was always so important the world would end without me. But also, very dramatic, I thought I might die of it. I was that
Mm-hmm.
scared. I thought,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is terrible. I'll never get out of it and I'll end up, not being able to function. But that's just not true. I come out the other side of any emotional holiday, that's not the right word, but little break.
Mm-hmm.
I call it wallowing in it. I give myself time to wallow, and I'm not sure if that translates to
No,
language.
it
It
does.
might be
It
language
does. I
term.
understand that British speak. Yeah.
You're learning. I know you're
Yeah.
learning, but I don't know about everyone else. But I have my times when I will purposely wallow, give
Yeah.
myself that, and then I'm doing my self care and I'm doing what I need to do. And then when I do come back, it's just so go, yeah, I give myself a big congratulations. I've done it. I survived again, and it does sound really dramatic and people do laugh at me, but that's okay because actually it's my way of being okay with it.
Yeah. And that's
And
the
actually just
thing.
going how far I've come, gosh, it's amazing that I can do that. And like you say, the human experience is to feel everything, it's not to push it away.
Yeah. And it's like, you just made a good point. It's like, do what works for you. Like, find your
Mm,
way, like, take what works
mm,
for you and leave the rest. And maybe something won't work for you now, but it'll work for you later, or vice versa. It's,
yes,
and a lot
exactly.
of times when I find myself coming back, well, like when I'm in a space of like darkness, and I'm feeling like, oh, what do I need? Like I go back to the basics. I just go back to the beginning and then find it again. So, nothing is unworkable, or I don't know what the
Mm,
word is, but you know what I mean? It's
mm,
like but it's even though it's hard to feel what you're feeling in that moment. It's like you said, so worth it to come out and to
yeah, yeah.
like I said, like I feel like I just am better connected to who I am,
Mm,
um,
mm.
and just more prepared for the next time that something
I,
comes
I,
up, because life is
yeah,
constantly, evolving and changing and throwing stuff at us,
yeah,
and
always
this
throwing
is
stuff
this
at
is
us, isn't it?
this is
So
life.
that
It's a cycle
is
of it.
that is I'm being a bit dense here, but I'll ask you because I ask you everything. Is that resilience? Are we building our resilience? Is that what we're doing?
I think so. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is we're building resilience. We're also, what I talk about in the book too, is cultivating that home inside of ourselves, because
Yes.
when
Yeah.
because we're going there, we're going inward when we're in our grief, when we're sitting in that and processing and feeling that, and bypassing that, we're actually kind of doing what we were always taught to shut down and look externally for a solution or whatever, when everything is
Mhm.
inside.
Mhm.
So I think that really is cultivating the resilience,
I think it is. Yeah. Yeah.
to, yeah, it's not to say that things aren't going to happen in our lives that we're going to have to navigate from a grief
Mm.
perspective, or from a traumatic
Yeah.
feeling perspective emotionally, but we're more resilient in that process
That's
because
yeah.
we've been there and we're in it and we're
Mm.
not afraid of
Mm.
it.
Yeah, I think that is it, and I really do feel it's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? Building our resilience, because
Mm-hmm.
the world is a changed place. It's still
It's,
uncertain, isn't it?
yeah.
And we need that resilience. So it's wonderful to just think, what we've just been talking about is, in actual fact, building our resilience, and it's
Mm-hmm.
something that we can all benefit from, isn't it? So, and I think as well, we both now are helping other people the way that
Mm-hmm.
we've been helped, and it's what we've made it our life's work, haven't we? It's what
Yeah.
we do. We share, and we help people in the way that we
Mm-hmm.
can. And I think again, that's there's a bit of me going, okay, I felt this, I felt that bad once upon a time, or whatever's happening, or when I feel it again, and it helps me understand a little bit more. I have a bit more compassion. I have a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more empathy with people, and I'm grateful for that because I
Yeah.
can understand. So, do you feel the same with
I
how you are?
I feel the same way too. And I was having a conversation with somebody last week around this specific topic, around and us having these discussions. And I think when you're helping other people through the process of healing, or through some life changes, it's
Mm-hmm.
important for us doing the supporting role to keep continuing to do the work on ourselves, with ourselves,
Yes,
to keep
yes.
continuing to go through the process and evolve
Mm-hmm.
and grow and build
Mm-hmm.
that resilience within, and to continue to do our own work, because there's always work. As much as anyone will tell
Yeah.
you they're finished with it,
Mm-hmm.
you're
We're
never
not.
finished
We're
with
never.
it. We're
We're never
this is,
finished.
and we
Yeah.
will continue it in another lifetime, but
Mm-hmm.
it's this is why we're here, and to keep evolving in this way. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm so
Yeah.
glad you brought that up.
It's so
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? I always find this when I chat with you. I go off on lots of little, slightly little lighting little sparks in my brain all the time and in my heart. And it's just so, it is exactly what it is, isn't it? You know, we're never finished.
Hmm.
And that's really good, isn't it?
It
Because
is
where would
good.
we be if we were finished? You know, we're not finished. We're learning all the time. We're experiencing all the time. And the braver, the more resilient we get, the
Hmm.
more we're going to welcome that in and just go, okay, here I am now. I've
Yeah.
got through that. I've learned this. I've learned that. It's just so wonderful. Actually, it makes it. I hope people that are listening are feeling the way that I'm feeling. Going, yeah, bring it on.
Yeah.
The next thing. You know, come
Yeah,
on.
I
I
feel
can
that way
handle
too.
it.
Sometimes when it comes up, I'm like, okay, really now? I don't have time for this. But it's like that. That's the thing.
Exactly.
We need to give ourselves permission to have time
Mm.
for it and to deal with it
That's
and to not
that's
push it away because we have to produce to
mm.
a schedule. You know, it's like
Yeah.
to cut ourselves some slack and to give ourselves that grace in the space to to
Yeah.
uh, move through it.
I
So
think that's something to hear, isn't it? That we can take the time that we need. And
yes,
if people won't give themselves permission, we can, can't we? We give people
we give
permission
you permission to do
to do
that.
whatever
Yeah.
you need to do. Take the time. As in my experience, the world didn't stop when I took the time I needed. Everything was okay. And I think that's something for people to take away with them today, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, we give them permission.
So I'm just conscious of our time. I want to
I
like
know, I
let
know.
people know where they can find you to work with you one
Mm,
on one, and because I know I personally have experienced your calmer self method in various forms, and it has
mm,
been so healing and helpful and supportive in my own journey. So I want others to be able to
yeah.
experience that as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Calmer Self, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, it's the Calmer Self Method. All over the place you can find me. You get sick of me, I'm all over the place. And for you, this is Trish
This is
Campbell
Trish Campbell,
everywhere?
where you're at right now on Instagram, and my website is the same. This is trishcampbell.com.
Yeah.
So you can get your copy of the book. The links are in my bio on Instagram, on Facebook.
Got
I'll
it.
post the
Yeah.
link, but it's
Mm,
also in my bio there, but not everyone looks there like they do on
yeah.
Instagram. But Amazon worldwide, indigo.ca, Barnes& and Noble.
Oh, brilliant.
More to come on Love Me. I'll be
Mm.
sharing some exciting news soon.
I
So
know, I know
thank you,
you're
everyone
developing
who
this
joined
way.
us. Thanks,
Thank
Amy.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. And we do have our next Zoom, don't we, where
yes.
we'll hold that lovely space for people.
Yeah,
And that's the
good time.
10th of August, isn't it? We've got that. So,
Yeah,
but we'll be putting that up for everyone. So please do join us, and then we don't have to read and talk at the same time.
yeah,
Which is
and
always a
yeah,
bit.
that's like again that more private setting where you can be
Mm,
part of the discussion as well, and
yeah.
a beautiful safe space to do that. So thanks so much,
Mm.
Nadine, for joining, for
Thank
doing
you,
this
and
together, and
thank you for everyone that's been listening to
continuing
us
this.
now.
Yeah.
If you listen on the replay, then put some comments in. We will always look and we'll always
Yes.
answer.
Yeah. If you have any questions too,
Yeah.
please don't hesitate. Thanks so
Thank you.
much. Okay.
Thank you
Much
so
love.
much.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Bye.